All right, good evening and welcome to the City of Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It's July 24th, 2023 at 6:30, excuse me, 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. Here.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Here.
Mr. Lawrence?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
We are all here. We had a unanimous vote on the roll call. That's a good step in the right direction. We got a commission review of Big Walnut Local School District minor lot split. The applicant is the school district, but I believe we can go ahead and present the information. Would Mr. White like to present the information, or would you like me to kick off the narrative?
You go have at it, sir.
We've been in negotiations with the school district to purchase 5 acres of land. It's what some refer to as the old high school or the current middle school. It's 5 acres adjacent to our wastewater treatment plant. The school district, now that they've opened up the new high school, doesn't have the need for that amount of facilities and maintenance and land. And so we've come up with an appraised value for the purchase. And the next step in the process is to approve the lot split. Are there any questions, or would you like to add anything, Mr. Whited?
Just that the purpose of the property is to enhance the ability to expand the wastewater treatment plant and add appurtenances to it so that it'll operate properly. I was hoping you'd say that.
Good.
It's exactly 5 acres, and we walked the site to make sure it was situated properly to meet our needs and suit the school as well.
Any questions?
I have just, with about 15 acres, that's what's left for the school? Or what's left?
The remainder for the school?
I think they have a little more than that.
A little more than that?
It's more than that. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay, but so a little bit more than that. What are they gonna do with it? Since it's taking a chunk, I mean,
We'll take the chunk and they'll continue to use the property as they currently are.
There's still, well, that's, some of that's parking lots, some of that is, practice football fields
okay,
and. Yeah, and the parcels to the right, which are not highlighted, are also Big Walnut Local Schools property. So just the shaded portion is the parcel that's receiving the lot split.
okay.
I think the school district has around, go ahead.
The remaining of that is 18.528 acres. Right. It says it in the shade, but it's hard to see.
In the total aggregation, I want to say they have close to 50 acres somewhere, including the old intermediate school on Bachman. We get a motion from the clouds.
So moved.
Second. We got a motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Ryba. Question. Roll call.
Mayor St. John?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. We're on to the commission review Ravines at Meadow Ridge minor lot split. And proximity is west of 3Bs and Cave Road, and Ravines at Meadow Ridge are looking to do a lot split of 23.868 acres, I believe. Is there anyone here from the applicant? Do you want to come up and speak? Sure. And state your name.
Matt Hartford, I'm the CSO surveyor, Metro Development.
Okay. And the purpose of the lot split is, do you know that?
First lot split is to be able to begin and finance construction. The final plat was intended to serve the purpose of creating this lot. I believe there was a slight delay in getting that final plat through this commission. because of the proposed Sunbury alignment change. So this lot split encompasses 2 lots of that proposed subdivision plat. So I wanted to the configuration matches that plat exactly as it's intended to be, and we the developer will move forward with supporting that plat.
In general layman's terms, the Sunbury Parkway alignment had shifted slightly, right? The developer wants to be able to inform their project that's already been approved within a specific parcel or parcels, and they're splitting off this portion to begin construction.
Correct.
That's correct. And thank you, Mr. Ackroyd. I appreciate you working with us. We did get this a little bit with not a whole lot of time to review it. We reviewed it. It is, I'm comfortable with it, but I would like to spend a little bit more time to make sure the closure is appropriate and so my recommendation is to for the commission to approve it conditioned on final engineering review. So that'll give me some additional time to work with Mr. Ackroyd to finalize that. And I'd also like to emphasize the fact that as soon as we get this alignment straightened out, the final plat comes in and includes 3 and 4 and conveys and includes the right of way for Sunbury Parkway and conveys that that small parcel. I think it's about 5 acres, that triangular parcel on the north west or northeast side of the property. And I would like the approval to have both those conditions attached to it if possible.
Are you okay with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion for approval, or do you have questions for the applicant?
I'll move to approve with the conditions mentioned.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve by Commissioner Ryba with the conditions stated by Mr. Whited.
Second.
We've got a second by Mr. Lawrence. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Ryba,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes,
6-0 yay.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for coming in. All right, we're on next. This commission is very efficient, and me talking just slows that down. So let's not do that. Commission discussion zoning code amendment. I'd like to call Mr. Daryl Hennessy to the stand, please.
Stand. Hey, Greg, Friday.
Not the first time, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So wanted to talk to you. So this is not an action item for tonight. Wanted to do a little preview with the commission before we present something in more detail to you next month. But I have placed in front of you a 1-page summary of what's being proposed. So as the mayor has talked about at some of the previous meetings, we wanted to look at our zoning code and in particular are interested in looking at our industrial zoning code and whether or not an additional district or a new district would be needed. So we did form a working group, includes actually every member of staff over there to the left, in addition to a couple of other folks from CT Consultants to help us with this. And what we've got is a proposal that we'll bring to you next month to create a new conventional zoning district that supports new business development. When we're going through the zoning code, there is a neighborhood office, a commercial plan. There's a planned commercial, industrial, and planned industrial districts. So those already exist. But when you look at the specific uses within each of those categories, they don't necessarily align with what we think the type and scale of development opportunities that might be in the city's best interest long term. And so this new zoning district is an attempt to be ready for the scale and type of housing that we envision, or and type of development that we envision, not housing. This is industrial, limited industrial. The city's current zoning district for industrial talks about warehousing, storage, heavier manufacturing, those types of uses, and then some ancillary uses that support those. What we're proposing here is a new district that would be more targeted for employment related or employment generating businesses. And I've identified a list there in the middle of the page: research and development, laboratory and testing, data centers, light intensity production, industrial flex space, industrial design, training facilities, headquarters of professional space. I mean, those are the types of uses that we're proposing would be eligible in this zoning district. And then if you go back up just one paragraph ahead of that, we think the new zoning district will have really three benefits or four benefits for the city. One, it will assist the city in diversifying its tax base. It will encourage new business development, and the way that we think it encourages new business development is by being clear and consistent with respect to the standards that the city expects of any new business that comes in this particular district. It'll raise the standards for industrial development beyond what you currently have in your zoning code today. And we believe will reduce the number of divergences that you see coming in front of you going forward. I think that's been a concern of this board for some time. And like I said, it establishes consistency in future developments. If you think about the way that plan developments have come to the city, into the Planning and Zoning Commission, every time a development comes forward, you're kind of revisiting and rediscussing all of the standards associated with that development. This zoning code is meant to take those best practices that you've already identified, get them into the zoning code, and basically set that as the standard moving forward. So that if there's a new Planning and Zoning Commission, they don't necessarily change that standard. You get consistency with the standard over time. The proposal is that it would apply primarily to undeveloped lots of at least 200 contiguous acres, and there will be a provision in there for any expansion beyond that, how to expand the zone beyond the 200 acres. I've tried to identify what some of the development standards are that we're currently working on. So these are the minimum standards that we've got in the draft today. We'll continue to work on the draft and present something to you, have something to you to read in advance of the next meeting. But at a minimum, you can count on these standards being included. Minimum lot size of 3 acres. So again, the zoning district would apply to a larger area, again, at least 200 acres, but there may be then subdivisions within the 200 acres, and no division would be less than 3 acres. Setbacks from the major arterials would be at least 250 feet. So really just trying to, get some green space in front of these facilities. Setbacks from the other streets and abutting uses at least 25 feet, but increasing to 100 feet if it's an agricultural or a residential use adjacent to that. And the thought here is that if you don't set that distance at the outset, if a residential use comes in at a later point where there was an agricultural use, it really gets to be difficult to provide the screening and the buffering that you really want between an industrial use and a residential use. So that's a reason to expand the setbacks in both of those particular categories. We are going to ask that whenever the developer comes in, that they're considering or planning for a regional detention stormwater management system as opposed to a site-by-site management system. It may not always work, but the zoning district will require them to address it at the very beginning, and we can determine whether or not we think it'll do what we need it to do. We're going to propose that the parking locations not be in front of the building. So again, kind of maintain that green space to the front of these industrial uses. And we're still working through some sort of way to determine the number. I don't have the conclusion on that yet. We're still doing some research, but what we're just trying to do is make sure that there are not large parking lots that don't have vehicles in them when they could be used for other purposes. Building height here, it could be up to 85 feet in height, but in order to get to 85, you've got to move the building farther back off of the road. So I think the way we have it drafted at the moment, it's 250 feet. You have to be back at least 250 feet to get up to 65 feet, and then farther back if you want to go to a taller building. So again, kind of creates the same sort of scale and feel, if you will, as you're driving by. Building design and materials. So at least 50% of the front facade needs to include brick, stone, masonry, wood siding, glass. I mean, these are, again, the standards that over time you've developed as projects have come before you. And we have called out certain types of materials that will never be permitted, like no metal siding that faces the right of way, no prefab or untreated masonry block buildings permitted in this. So again, trying to set a higher standard for our industrial developments going forward. Rooftop equipment screened. Any accessory structures had to be made of the same materials as the primary structure. And then landscaping, tree preservation, and multi-use trails are all included in the standards and are at or above our current standards today for development. The next item I've got on here, administrative policy. We're still working through a decorative fence policy and a decorative street lighting policy. The goal here is to align with whatever standard we'll be able to achieve with the Parkway. It's likely that the Parkway standard will not be set before the zoning ordinance comes through. So we'll probably approve that as a separate policy, and then it'll be an administrative policy after that, but you'll have a role to play in approving the policy. And then the final thing I'll say is that any waivers or divergences would come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. So rather than quote, a variance going to the Board of Zoning Appeals, it would come back to you. So by writing that into the ordinance, basically, protecting your role in this process to make sure that we're getting what it is that the city would expect out of these developments. So like I said, the goal is to get to some language before our next meeting. The zoning amendment process is a lengthy process. It involves public hearings at the commission level and at the council level. So there will be plenty of opportunity for the public to weigh in on these proposed changes as well. But again, just want to give you a little bit of a preview of what we plan to bring to you next month. So with that, Mayor, if you wanted to add anything or thoughts or comments.
I want to first say thanks, Daryl, for pulling this together. This has been really months worth of work. I also want to thank CT Consultants. We had not Alyssa, our new planner, but Elisa from CT Consultants, Dave Bream, Vic have all been involved in this process. And this really was the result of a couple things. Our historical growth pattern over the past 15 years has been really one thing, and that's single family residential for the most part. Recently we've had some multifamily, but over the past 9 months, and I would say this is coming on the heels of Intel, we're getting calls that we've never received before, and that's for high-tech development in and around Sunbury. And I'm really excited about it. And the reason I'm really excited about it is because I've come out of several meetings with the school board. I met with the superintendent Friday. Right before this, I met with the school board president, and the school board in particular wants to really do anything they can to assist the city in attracting, for lack of a better term, anything but housing. We think housing is great, but we're a little bit out of balance. Truthfully, based on where we were, even in the Nestle days, we lost Nestle, we lost grocery stores. The town square suffered a little bit. We're coming back, but it's coming back on the backs of the residential taxpayer, and that burden hasn't fully set in yet. And we need to take a proactive stance from, just from the community development side of things. If you were agnostically planning out a city, you wouldn't want to just say, hey, I'm going to have all single family homes at a 30-acre lot, or I don't want to have all apartments, or I don't want to have all commercial. It just doesn't balance out. And so we're trying to take a proactive step in adding some balance back into the equation. And honestly, the demand is there. There's a high demand right now. We're meeting with developers and brokers that want to come in here. The bottom line is when they call and they say, hey, where does X type of facility land in your zoning code? I can't point them to one place that would make logical sense without having to go through significant divergence or variance process. So we started looking at it a different way. And we want to do this with other zoning districts too. We want to take a total relook, but a tactical response right now based on the demand is to create this new zoning district. I haven't had a chance to talk to individual council members. They support the concept, but it's our role as the Planning and Zoning Commission to provide feedback to Mr. Hennessy and let him know if this is something we're interested in. And I would highly recommend that we pursue this path.
Any questions or comments or?
I have a question.
Sure.
And, I just read this, and this is just a clarification, I think, type of question. On the purpose, the zoning ordinances for the districts of neighborhood, office, commercial, do they state, because I don't have the code in front of me, in the first paragraph or two, why they're different than what you're calling this?
Well, what they'll do is that they'll call out the approved uses, if you will. So neighborhood commercial, again, it's going to be a lower intensity use, but it's also going to be retail oriented, for example. So like I said, light intensity manufacturing, research and development center. They just don't fit in any of those definitions right now in our current zoning code. So that's what I was trying to get at when I say they don't speak to the type or the scale of uses I think that we would envision in this zone.
Well, that would be one of the things that I would recommend to make sure that when we're looking at the code going forward, that when we look at the neighborhood office, it's clear where it stops. And that you have to, so somebody doesn't have to read the whole code, so that you go, do I need to be in the neighborhood office? Do I need to be in industrial or planned industrial? That you know to stop, and then so that you would go to this district. But then also, what are we going to call this huge undertaking of so many things?
So two thoughts on that. One is, one of the things we are going to do in this district is include a chart. So it's pretty easy to look at. Is this a permitted use in this district? Or does this have some additional conditions? So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is Alex actually we realized this is a challenge in our current zoning code. We should get this for the members. Alex had developed a chart that really does help you. If I'm a multifamily property and I'm in this zone, is it a permitted use under the current zone or the current zoning code? It really is helpful. And it probably is the type of thing that we would want to add when we do a comprehensive rewrite of the zoning code.
I can email that out after, bring it to the next meeting if you guys.
Those were just some of the
Yeah.
thoughts I had just quickly reading it.
Well, as the mayor indicated, this is not to suggest this is the only thing that's
No,
needed in the zoning code. I think we've found a few other items. And actually, maybe related to that, Mayor, one thing the council is considering is we are having a recodification review, basically of the city's codified ordinances. They will look at the zoning ordinance and inconsistencies between that and our other codes. So that's also going to call out some areas I think that need to be fixed going forward. So a couple of different ways that which will begin to identify the more comprehensive update.
Reading code, and I've done a lot of it, and is I hate having the same information listed 10 different times in different spots.
Yeah.
And then you have to remember all 10 spots if you want to make one change. I like only the differences to be spelled out
I see.
in separate things.
And it did get cleaned up, 2 years ago, we cleaned it up.
It
It was much, much worse.
Yeah,
It still needs cleaned up.
I think our zoning code was like the base of it was created back in the 80s, maybe even in the late 70s.
I think that's what Dave had indicated, Mr. Bremen indicated. I mean, it's been updated a few times, but
Right.
I think 80.
I mean, the core, and why you see a lot of the repeat information. I mean, if you looked at township zoning, it's very similar. Yeah, I couldn't, we're speaking from the same hymnal.
We are, so. All right, great, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Daryl? I mean, just around the intent, the purpose, and I think we would like to, in August meeting, bring forward text to
Yes,
potentially
and actually, I
review.
should have mentioned, we will have Alyssa at that meeting, the planner doing most of the drafting. She'll be available to help answer any detailed questions you might have related to the text. But yeah, we'll have text at the next meeting.
So we've got Alyssa from Sunbury, but it'll be Elisa from CT Consultants, right?
Yes, exactly. Keep you on your toes.
Right. Mr. Whitney, you were involved in some of the discussions. Do you have anything that you want to add?
I think Daryl did a great job of summarizing it. And yes, as you're aware, it's been an ongoing process and a lot of effort put in from a lot of people. So I think it's a great idea to have the planning commission being reviewing this and moving forward as you described. Thank you.
All right. I did have one thing I wanted to mention on this, and you reference it, Mr. Hennessy. It's around building height increasing to 85 foot with bigger setbacks. One thing that I've talked to a couple of folks about is just doing some sort of slope calculation. And I think we've maybe discussed that at a high level. Joe, you may remember from the Northgate planned commercial district 7 years ago, where it basically was, yeah, they can have taller buildings, but there's got to be some sort of line of sight slope calculation. You know, you can't put an 85-foot building right up against the property line. There's got to be there's got to be appropriate setbacks. So I guess if there was a focus for me, that would be it. Because we don't know where this district will apply, but you have to think it's going to be contiguous to Sunbury's border somewhere. All right, moving on. We're on to the visitor section. Are there any visitors that would like to speak with the Planning and Zoning Commission? All right, come on in. You can just state your name and address, please.
Absolutely. My name is Justin Lane. I'm at 1005 Fox Creek Road.
And I'm Teresa Myers. I'm at 393 Summer Meadows Road.
I appreciate this. So Teresa and I are here this afternoon, and obviously we live in Sunbury Meadows. I am also on the Sunbury Meadows HOA board, and we're here to kind of talk about the increased construction traffic that's been going through our neighborhood to the new Rolling Hills development. So all of the since the beginning of this year, we've seen an increased number of semi trailers and dump trucks running through Sunbury Meadows Drive, down through Saffron, and then into Clover Street. So it's a long stretch there. So that's over 40 homes that it has to pass through. Community pool, and that's a lot of space for kids and a lot of stuff there. So
The biggest concern, this was brought to my attention one day when I was sitting on my porch, being where I'm located with development. I am actually like the fourth stop sign. So when you come into the development and there's 2 stop signs, I'm actually right there. So sitting in my office, looking outside, I can see all these kids get off the school bus with 5 cement trucks coming through the neighborhood at the exact same time. To me, that's an accident waiting to happen because they're happy to get out of school, or these drivers can stop looking up. Then why are they coming through? That was the biggest question that we had. So doing some investigation and going over to the other side, talking to the developers over there, the salespeople, which aren't investigating, and following the truck, over there, and something kept people through there. And he said, because somebody got a ticket, $1,200 for going on Golf Course Road. And I was like, okay, I will figure that. So I've been talking to Alex Flannery, and he has, okay, thank you. And we are trying to help figure out how we can stop this. We also have noticed that there is a sign over there that states between February 1st and November. Between November and February. They trucks can't go through. That's like June, from February to June 1st, you can't go through there.
some sort.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we brought that to Alex's attention to see what this development was put together and approved. Was that considered about how they would get the trucks would get to the neighborhood without going through another one? So that's kind of why we're here. We know right now they shouldn't come through because there's no 8-minute restrictions at this time. But they are.
And there is a small construction sign right at the entrance of our neighborhood, very small, but you can't see very well. But it is there. And obviously, as she's noted, she's done a lot of investigative work for our neighborhood. We've had a lot of calls to the HOA from concerned families on why is this happening? How can we stop that? So right now, summer, there's a lot of kids out playing. Again, the school's going to be starting up here again shortly. So we're asking for your help and guidance today on how to take measures to keep this construction traffic on Golf Course Road. We'd also ask for maybe some larger signs at the entrance and then also on Clover Street to help traffic coming back through to look at that time. So
Last Monday, the day I actually called Alex because after sitting in my office, which I can see right out front, an hour and a half, I saw 5 trucks come through and didn't even come. And that just seems one of them went and came back. And they were everything from dump trucks to sod trucks to unit going for the neighborhood. So it's a big concern for the safety of the children. And our roads, to be honest with you, I mean, when they do these constructions, they put these roads in and they redo them for the developers to be young. And now these trucks can potentially be upon our road as well.
I think Daryl and I can get this figured out. And this is the Planning and Zoning Commission, so they don't necessarily enforce the standards I think you're looking for. You're looking for more police enforcement, communication with the developers, re-explaining how they should be driving into the construction sites. I know we've seen a huge improvement in Price Ponds on Millstone Drive. It was very bad for a little while, but I mean, we had to bring out the hammer and threaten enforcement, but this is the first time hearing of it. So it's I'm glad you're here. And Daryl and I and Alex can work with the developers to get this addressed. Actually, Mr. Whited, would you mind laying the hammer down again on Rolling Hills?
Absolutely, and I'll talk to the county engineers, the one that puts those signs on the golf course road, and I'll talk to them about that as well. Yeah, okay.
Just the vision, I guess, was they weren't supposed to be driving through residential neighborhoods with construction traffic. So the goal is to get them in through golf course road. We'll figure that out.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We need to do this when development comes to you. Is it something that you guys consider on how construction would get there?
We do, yeah.
Okay, that's why I ended up with, if I started with, the city, I think it's Ocean, and they directed me over to Alex, and that's why that's not the direction that we were given. But that is something you know, and that helps years ago, happens to approve for them, what was the plan, or, that would add it later.
I can't cite the specific part in the code, but I'll say the general. Alex, you would have to answer this. I'm not sure if you went back and looked at it. I mean, generally, we don't allow construction traffic through already developed neighborhoods.
And I can send you what I can find on that as well. And then I know we have a sign that we've ordered. We are kind of just waiting on it to come in, but it's one of the big, like kind of flashy construction signs right there. So that'll be placed when it gets here. Our goal is to place that at that entrance. So
If you still see it, we'll set a police officer there for a long period of time.
Thank you.
And we will issue more $1,200 tickets. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, any other visitors here? All righty. We're ready to make a motion to approve the minutes. I'm going to make that motion.
And I'll second.
Got a second? By Ms. Miller, discussion?
I have an edit. One question on the adjournment. Doesn't everyone usually say yes or no?
Yes, we do.
So shouldn't it be 6?
Or do we have unanimous consent? And we had 6 in attendance?
I would assume we had unanimous.
I'm sure I wanted to
adjournment.
stay.
What's that?
I'm sure I wanted to stay.
Yeah. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like we had 6.
Yes.
So just one change, 6 on the bottom
Yes,
for
sir.
adjournment, 6 years.
There we go. With that edit, are there any other edits? All right, roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Guckenauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Moraes,
Yes.
Mr. Rival,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
All right, we're on to the zoning report. Thank you.
All right, so zoning report, obviously, new city planner, Alyssa Graziano, who is here with us right now. She started last Monday. Phases 1 and 2 of Ravines on Meadow Ridge have got their zoning certificates. So you will see, if you haven't already, the big increase in zoning certificates is due to that. Aside from that, it was kind of just a regular month, but we'll get to that. We've had an increase in reports of grass and weed issues through the website report a function or report a concern function. I don't know if it's because of the realignment of it last month or not, but people are looking at grass more. We worked with the service department to reroute the Ohio Erie Trail. As you guys know, the bridge opened up not too long ago, and we still had some signs directing around kind of up towards the High Street area around to that bridge. So we've removed those signs, and we're working with Preservation Parks to get new signs to put in to go up Vernon to Cherry and then down Cherry to the trail. So that will be the plan for that. The Sunbury Parkway District Plan conducted 2 community meetings, one of them which was here, and then the other one was online, I believe, this past Wednesday. So those are done, and they have all the survey results as well. We're just waiting for them to compile those before we hear back from what their plan is going to be. And I'm assuming you guys will all be in the loop on that one. I'm assuming you guys have also seen all the political signs and just signs in general popping up in the right of ways. I've been doing my best to try to keep those down as much as I can. If you guys see any personally, feel free to email me. I typically will go around every morning and just kind of keep an eye out, see if there's any more popping up. We do have a new one on Route 36, 37, and 3, which will be down tomorrow. Big one, stakes in the ground. So that is there.
Bush Road too.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I have noticed, Alex, that you're doing a great job with that because I see them all the time. And I think to myself, if I see them tomorrow, I'm going to tell Alex and they're gone. And it's been a ton. And every time I'm like, I'm going to tell Alex and then they're gone. I was going to bring that up in new business. So thank you. It's being noticed by the folks that are paying attention.
And so
This is only a public right of way, just to be clear.
Yeah,
This,
yeah.
you know,
It's
it's
a
a
public
private
right.
property. He's not like running on the yard and ripping it.
My land, Alex.
follow me back to the municipal building and ask for them. And I mean, if you come collect them, I usually give them the breakdown of like where you can, where you can't place them. And I know it's in our plan right now to get a social media post out. We're just kind of working on phrasing of that, but we're trying to at least and like notify everybody as to why the signs are leaving, because I know a lot of people are thinking like yeses are taking down no's are taking down yeses, and I'm just taking down all of them. So I want to make sure that everyone knows. General phone inquiries, we've had the same thing kind of increase with the grass and weed issue, but over the phone, people just calling and saying kind of general concerns, which I'll go and check out. We've actually had 3 different individuals call about moving to Sunbury. I thought that was noteworthy because I typically don't get those phone calls, but they were just questioning on different kinds of locations around the city, what they can do with different parcels, different zoning. So kind of nice to hear people moving in this way. And then Sunbury Parkway, as we've had the past few months, just people wanting to get a better idea of what's happening, especially with the survey and the meetings coming out. Just a lot of general questions about what's going on with that. And then I've created a spreadsheet to track permits and construction costs of projects. Permits, my idea with that was like, I get an email a month talking, like people just generally reaching out to see how many permits we issued, what we've issued permits for. So my idea is to create the spreadsheet so you can just kind of open up the link and then see all our permits for 2023, 2022, no personal information, just permit number, where it was located at, what it was. So just the general information that you get from an inquiry into the municipal building. That way I don't have to waste more time giving these people the permits. They could just kind of do the work themselves. And then just driving around for neighborhoods and observing grass and conditions. And speaking of which, we did have 4 new residents receive grass and weed notices. No one I've had to call and have it mowed yet. Usually when they get that, it's cleared up in the next day or 2. And then 2 new businesses receiving new violation warnings as well. Both have since, and both for grass issues, and both have since cut it down. And I'm working with another one currently because they have not trimmed it down, but it's kind of trying to find the right person to talk to in that situation because business is so big. All right. Permits issued. We have.
Alex, I have a question on this.
Yes.
You talked about the spreadsheet. Do you not have a software program that will generate that for you?
No. That is another thing that's kind of what this is the intermediate for. As we start growing as a city, I think that would be wonderful and a great idea to move towards. It's just about figuring out what that software is, what it looks like, where do we get it, and which one do we want. So for right now, this kind of temporary.
Yucky. I was in for that.
But yeah, that would be an ideal situation, yes. But for right now, that one was easy enough to put together that I can keep people who want that information happy generally. Zoning certificates, as you can see, we had 39, 21 of those were for the ravines at Meadow Ridge. They have 13 buildings, 7 garages and a clubhouse over there. So those are those. Occupancy permits, we had 15, and then other permits, all, oh no, 1 sign. So 6 fences and 1 sign. And then on the bottom, Rolling Hills, 6 new zoning certificates, 5 occupancy. Price Ponds at 7 zoning certificates, 2 occupancy. Miller's Cove, 1 and 4, Sunbury Meadows, 2 new occupancy, and then Ravines has the 21. And on the next one, the historical trends, if you take away those 21, it still puts us above a lot of the other months that we've had. It would just be kind of another average month without them. But with that, it kind of bumped our numbers up a great amount for this year. That puts us way higher than we've been previously. As you can see, last year at the same time, we had 51 total new builds, and this year we have 106. So almost double in the same amount of time. And then as far as annually goes, we have passed every year of the last 5 except for 2022, which we are rapidly catching up with. And then just the final chart that shows it all out throughout the years. Is any questions on the zoning report?
No, sir. All right. Any questions? Great update, Alex. Thank you very much. We are on to new business. Mr. Gokenhour,
None.
Mr. Riva, Miller.
No,
Sure.
I'll have a question, but I'll ask Alex later.
Okay. Mrs. Cooper.
Nope.
All right, my new business is just a follow up from a next door post that is not true. And that is the city is not selling J.R. Smith Park, the Lion's Den. We are not. This is on record, and I just wanted to make sure. But there's some nifty little PDF tools that you can edit PDFs and made it look like Lion's Den was going right in the middle of J.R. Smith Park. So if you saw that, it's not true. We will never sell it. Thank you. All right. My new business. Anything from staff? Good to go. Next meeting, August 28th. Anybody going to be out? All right, we will see you there. Mr. Riva,
Move to adjourn.
got a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gokenhour. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St.
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Riva?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Nice. 68 votes.
Your turn. Thank you very much.
So it's not gonna happen?
You didn't see that? No. If you don't have next door, just don't get it. It's terrible.
They had something
I think
like
we're still
that.
streaming, Alex.